God, I can't remember it now. I've got it on one of those tapes. I've got a whole bunch.
Do you remember any compositions that never ended up on the record?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there are a couple of things here and there. You know, the saddlebags and little snippets of things. There's also another thing that at first I thought was a totally new tune that I discovered on one of those rehearsal tapes, and I was asking Tommy about it, and he reminded me that was what eventually became Heavenly Bank Account. There was this little thing we were playing. It was sort of a little robot sounding thing. This had this sort of like square little robot feel, and we played it a little bit that way a few days in rehearsal. And then one day, Tommy, as he was, I probably shouldn't tell Tommy's stories for him, but I'll tell this one. Sorry, Tommy. About Tommy started playing like a gospel version of it. And Tommy says that Frank walked into rehearsal and said, "Wow, that's cool. What's that?" And said, "Frank, you don't even know? That's your own tune. You wrote that. That's the thing you were doing." And Frank, "Wow, that's cool." And so then that's how it became Heavenly Bank Account, because Tommy started doing a gospel version of this thing that was this little robot thing, this cool little robot thing. And I had forgotten myself. I heard the little robot thing. I thought, "Oh, I discovered something new. Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one." And that became that was always fun when transformations like that would happen. But it was Frank's music, and it was his to do what he wanted to with. I remember when I was doing the bass overdubs on "We're Only in It for the Money." It's like I kept saying to Frank, I said, "Frank, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure this is a good idea?" "Yeah, I never liked the drums and bass on there. I never liked the way they sounded. This is better. This is better." And across the, he wanted me to do it, and he was paying me, so I did it. And I listened to the album so many times. I'd never played most of the songs before, but it was one of my favorite albums in my whole life when I was in high school. "We're Only There for the Money" was one of my Bibles. I listened to it a million times.
You did the bass part
on the first reissue of it, right? Yeah. He replaced the drums and bass on there, and I always disagreed. I mean, to this day, I disagree with the idea of it. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, and the fun part for me was that I got to, when Frank went out of the room to go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I pushed up, "Oh, God, what's on this track?" Of the original 8-track master. "Oh, that's what that is." Hear all the different pieces of it. Hear, "Oh, there's the guitar from Mama," and listen to, all these, different parts that were the components that, of the 8-track, the master that made up "We're Only for the Money." So. But I'm glad they finally reissued the original version, even though it sounds kind of crappy. I got hold of it, and it's got some distortion and stuff on it. But maybe that's just the way it is. Frank said that when they mixed albums back then, like with that album, so you go to New York and you walk into this room with this guy. He's got these 8 big knobs like this. And you get like about an hour, and you go through it, and okay, that's it. It's mixed, and that was a mix for your whole album. It's been 2 or 3 hours there. So he was never satisfied with the way it sounds. That's the funny thing. You talk to Frank, and albums that I loved and thought they were perfect and brilliant and fabulous. He'd go, "Oh, well, that's got a mistake here, and that's got this wrong. And doesn't the drums sound like shit?" And this. "Well, I thought it sounded great." And he's, but that's always the way it is. If you produce, you always know all the little things that are wrong with it. That nobody else notices. His music.
So you are the only person to have a hold of the rehearsal recording.
Of the ones I've got, because it was my job to make those recordings, so I could go home and so I could keep track of all the stuff that needed to be done. Yeah.
And producing them would be difficult because you have to deal with Juha Zappa also and ask for permission.
Oh, you mean to release them or something? Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I've given that some thought. I'm sure that the Zappa family might have a different take on it, but from my viewpoint, I was instructed by Frank to make those recordings, and I bought the blank tape. In fact, he told me that he instructed me when I got in the band to go buy a cassette machine so I could bring it to rehearsal and record the rehearsals, so I could take it home and learn the parts. and you know, I bought the tape. So as far as I'm concerned, those are authorized recordings that I own. So you know, I don't know how someone else might feel about that. You know, I have never attempted to bootleg them or release them, but who knows? There's some interesting shit on there. I've got hours and hours and hours and hours of stuff. Unbelievable hours of shit.